everyone. Welcome to the Mufasa book reading. My name is Julia, and we are reading from Dr. Tineka Walfer's book, Authentic Leadership Effectiveness. Enjoy. Chapter 11, A Final Word. At the outset of this book, I stated that not all leadership positions are filled by true leaders. And similarly, one does not have to be in a leadership position to be regarded as a true leader. In leadership positions, leaders usually have solid reporting lines where, in theory, those reporting to them need to do as they instruct. However, in most organizations, leaders also have dotted reporting lines where they need to deliver through others who do not necessarily report to them. And in such scenarios, positional power is not necessarily as effective as influential power. In both situations, leaders become more effective when they lead beyond position and by an authentic leader present. The difference between general leadership effectiveness and authentic leadership effectiveness is that it is not only about what needs to be achieved, but also about the what needs to be achieved. In this final chapter, I consider the lessons learned from our authentic leaders, and I conclude by sharing some of my personal reflections, leadership lessons. More than ever, we live in a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and more than ever, the quality of leaders affects the well-being of the systems and the members that form part of the system in which they lead. Viewing both Suzman and Madiba through their internal authentic leader compasses demonstrate why they are regarded as highly effective and impactful global leaders. I realized during my work that there is a hierarchy for each of us in our set of values, where I define the word values as what we value. At the top of our hierarchy of values is our purpose, that value that we value more than any other value. In context of leadership, this refers to our leadership purpose, which is accompanied by a leadership vision, that which the leader, true to his or her purpose, is working towards. One does not have to occupy the most powerful leadership position to be experienced as a leader. It is more than about aligning to our enacted with our espoused values. This means that we need to know what these are and reflect them in our behavior so that others also know what our values are. Simply by observing our behavior, there is an African saying that it takes a village to bring up one child. The other side of the coin is that a great leader acknowledges that he or she cannot deliver on their own, that they need to deliver with or through others. Their main function becomes to influence, empower, and inspire others to deliver to the best of their abilities for the greater good of all. In the case of authentic leadership, as in spiritual or servant leadership, we realize that our leadership purpose is divinely inspired and that all that appears to come from us actually comes through us. That we become the vessel through which the energy and work flows. It therefore transcends ego and becomes a blessing to realize that we are part of a bigger picture. This can be very grounding, especially in times of stormy weather. It becomes the internal compass to guide leaders to stay on track. Celebration, especially with others, therefore becomes a life skill as it allows us to count blessings. And those blessings usually involve others and their contributions to the outcomes that we collectively aim to achieve. The act of celebration allows us to reinforce individual and collective positive behaviors, especially in times of change, whilst holding on to the empowering beliefs that we are all supported by forces much larger and more powerful than our own power. Moral courage, one of the underpinnings of authentic leadership, is about standing for what one holds to be true, even if one might feel fearful, and it is one of the distinguishing characteristics of great leaders. It is about being prepared to say or do things for the right reason, even if it might not find the acceptance of the majority. It is about being able to do so even when the potential impact on self-image might not be favorable. Moral courage is not about the lack of fear, rather, it is about realizing that the purpose of one is working towards, and that requires courage bigger and more important than one's fear. This was true about the leadership of both Suzman and Madiba. Principles of systems thinking imply that if one does not grow, entropy sets in. There is no such thing as remaining stagnant. Therefore, growing can be linked to joy and vitality, whilst entropy is linked to aging and dying. I once had a coaching leadership client who was the CEO of an international financial institution. And this client always arrived late for our sessions and continually had not done self-work upon which we had previously agreed. I was forced to stop the process and ask my client to unpack his behavior. The response I received was that this client would not have been the CEO if there was still personal development required. I then inquired about a rationale for embarking on an authentic leadership program. And the motivation offered was to be a good example to the rest of the organizational leader coaches. At this point, I chose to withdraw from the journey with this leader, as the leader developmental readiness was not sufficient to allow for openness to learning. And in response to the question, what is it that I do not know yet? As suggested during the interview with Prof. Nicola earlier in this book, knowledge and growth are generated by remaining curious and through having the skill to ask good questions of oneself and others. Thank you so much for joining us in today's book reading. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share to your family and friends. Bye.